Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Christoph Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means. Joining me, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campia.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Good morning, Christoph.
Good morning, John. And we also have joining us via Skype, Director of The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, Mr. John Schnepp.
Hello.
Good morning.
All right, guys, today we're going to get things started with this. Just when you thought you were going to be able to pull out your 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 20-sided dice again, Hasbro has to come along and be a buzzkill. Last week, we reported that Warner Brothers was actively developing a new Dungeons & Dragons movie with a script by Walking Dead writer David Johnson, who has also penned the scripts for films like Wrath of the Titans and Orphan. However, toy company Hasbro has come along to kill the party, claiming that WB does not own the required rights to develop a new movie. So at this point, it looks like the fate of Dungeons & Dragons movie will be in the hands of the Dungeon Master. I mean, a federal judge. John, how do you feel about this development?
This sucks. That is my professional pundit opinion evaluation of the situation. This sucks. I want a Dungeons & Dragons movie. Yes, the last Dungeons & Dragons movie completely sucked. Absolutely it did. Yes, another Dungeons & Dragons movie will probably also suck. Granted. But I want to see it. I played a lot of Dungeons & Dragons when I was a kid. Surprise, surprise. With my wizard character, Zap, and others. I love tabletop role-playing games. We've talked about this before. Now listen, in this scenario, Hasbro, first of all, we don't really know that Hasbro has any right to stop WB going into production. But let's say they do. Let's say there is some contract somewhere that kind of stipulates that Hasbro has the rights to stop this. Hasbro doesn't really want to stop a movie production by Warner Brothers on Dungeons & Dragons. That's not what their goal here is. Their goal here is to put themselves in a position where they have the right to stop Warner Brothers and therefore force Warner Brothers just to cut them in on the action. That's all Hasbro's really looking for here. So I got to believe that regardless of what happens, Warner Brothers will eventually make this movie. It just sort of sucks that Hasbro is throwing a wrench in the works. I hope maybe a judge will say, nope, no, Hasbro, you have no claim to this. Maybe they won't. But either way, I think it'll happen. Schnepp, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks of the Terminator, when the Terminator rights were being fought over by Gloncon and Philibisk, these weird companies. And it just went on for years. So I don't know. It sounds bad. So I'm kind of bummed out. But you know what all this talk of Dungeons & Dragons did? It made me watch that original one again with what the Wayans brother and the dude with the weird blue lips with the snake stuff. Horrible film. Jeremy Irons totally overacting through the entire thing. You can't even understand what he's saying. He's just screaming. If you haven't seen the original Dungeons & Dragons, just YouTube some clips from that, man. It's incredible how bad it is.
Yeah,
amazing.
It is. It's really terrible.
So Dungeons & Dragons fans are going to have to wait a little bit longer.
A little bit longer.
All right. As we discussed last week, Tom Cruise has signed a deal to produce and star in a 5th installment of his hugely successful Mission Impossible franchise. Now it looks like they have a writer. Pacific Rim and Iron Man 3 writer Drew Pearce has been hired to write the script for Mission Impossible 5. Pearce has also written the script for the upcoming Sherlock Holmes 3. Schnepp, do you think Pearce's writing will be a good fit for the Mission Impossible franchise?
Well, seeing as Iron Man 3 had a whole ton of Mission Impossible feeling, it felt like a Mission Impossible movie with Tony Stark as some secret agent with just like a power glove. Yeah, I think he's going to be a great writer for the new movie. He also working on the Runaways script, the Marvel superheroes Runaways, and all the stuff he's written so far is really cool. It's different, it's fun. So I think he's a great pick to write the 5th Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I got to completely agree with Schnepp on this. I felt a lot through Iron Man 3. It had a bit of a Mission Impossible feel. Maybe not the first 2 Mission Impossible films, but definitely Mission Impossible 4 started combining the worlds of some, tip of your hat, wink of the eye comedy with some great action. Iron Man 3 was loaded with all of that stuff. Of course, a lot of that had to do with Shane Black as well, but I'm really looking forward to Pacific Rim. And seeing, what he does with that. And Sherlock Holmes 3, I'm a big fan of the other 2 Sherlock Holmes. But yes, I do think Pearce is a really good fit for a Mission Impossible 5. I'm very curious to see what they come up with for this. All right, folks, so listen, we've come to that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's what's going to happen. In front of her, Crystal Lee has a bunch of other items in the world of movie news. She's going to list them off. And Schnepp and I are simply going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Crystal Lee, what do we got?
The Iron Man 2 reunion is now complete. As you know, Jon Favreau is directing and starring in his own upcoming comedy, Chef, about an overly emotional Los Angeles chef who decides to quit his job and start all over again by running his own food truck. Favreau, who directed the first 2 Iron Man movies and produced the third, added Robert Downey Jr. to the cast this week, and now it's been announced that Scarlett Johansson has also joined the film as Favreau's love interest. John, buy or sell Scarlett Johansson joining Chef?
You know, I gotta buy this. I've been saying I love the sound of this movie from start to finish. Adding Robert Downey Jr. is great. Jon Favreau, I think, is great. And look, all you need, like all of you guys out there, I know you think like I do, what do I need to do to have Scarlett Johansson squeezed up against me? I know, produce my own movie and cast her in it. Brilliance, Mr. Favreau. I salute you, sir. That's awesome. Schnepp, what about you?
Well, seeing as I've just cast Scarlett Johansson and Jennifer Lawrence in this incredible buddy cop movie in the future, I don't know how Jon Favreau is going to have her playing Black Widow with Tony Stark again in this dinner movie about superheroes. I don't see how that's going to happen. So, but I will buy it.
I like that it has food trucks in it now.
Yes,
Very
me
LA.
too.
Reports have surfaced that claim Chris Pine and Jake Gyllenhaal are in talks to join Johnny Depp and Meryl Streep in director Rob Marshall's adaptation of the Broadway musical Into the Woods. Into the Woods weaves together the story of several of the most beloved fairy tales, Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood, Jack and the Beanstalk, and Rapunzel, into the original story of a baker and his wife who try to reverse a curse on their family in order to have a child, exploring the consequences of the characters' wishes and quests and their desire for happily ever after. Schnepp, buy or sell the sounds of Into the Woods?
I buy it as long as it's better than a lot of these other, the Terry Gilliam Grimm brothers Grimm. I'm all for it. I just did an animated Grimm fairy tales myself, so I'm all about these fairy tales right now. They're all swirling around in my mind. This sounds exciting and fun. I'm in. I'm buying it.
By the way, if you get a chance to watch John Schnepp's Grimm Fairy Tales, you really should. It's a lot of fun. I saw it. I got to sell this. To me, this sounds rather convoluted. It sounds rather stupid. But this is one of those things where maybe I'll watch the trailer and go, oh, my God, this looks like it rules. But just for now, from a distance, I'm going to make it a sell.
I'm going to buy it because that's happily ever after. How can you not happily ever after? But I'm a girl. Okay. It appears RZA has joined the cast of the upcoming District B13 remake, Brick Mansions, and will star alongside Fast and Furious star Paul Walker. The film features a script by Luc Besson, who co-wrote the original. The storyline follows an undercover detective, Walker, traversing a deadly ghetto nicknamed Brick Mansions to uncover a WMD stolen by a vicious drug dealer. John, buy or sell RZA joining Brick Mansions?
Sell! Sell! Look, RZA just did Man with the Iron Fist. He actually wrote and directed that film, and it's a film I actually liked. I think he did a really cool job with that movie, and I thought it was a very cool movie. Ironically enough, the worst part of Man with the Iron Fist is RZA, who also put himself in the starring role, and he's terrible. And then we just had that G.I. Joe Retaliation come out. Absolute most laughable worst part of that movie is RZA in it. Terrible. I'm actually, surprisingly enough, really into this dude as a filmmaker right now. I want to see what he does next as a filmmaker. But as an actor, he's awful. The one redeeming thing is he might have found a movie where maybe he won't be the worst actor, since Paul Walker's going to be in it too. But yeah, so for me right now, and I really like the original District B. I thought the original was really good, but for me, I got to sell. Schnepp?
Sorry, I got to buy this because I'm a big fan of all the two District B13 and the original one I think was B12. I don't think they should just do a prequel, B11, B10. They could do all of them, right?
Vitamin
I
B12.
love the crazy parkour, dudes, spider jumping off buildings and climbing, and it's just mad and crazy action. So if they're gonna get the RZA, I think he's probably gonna be like maybe the Lord, like I don't see RZA parkouring. It's not gonna happen. Like RZA spider jumping and crawling atop the buildings and doing these crazy stunts. But I buy it. I can't wait to see an American remake of the insane District B13. You could watch that on Netflix. I'm pretty sure either the first or the second one are on. So you should check it out. It's crazy.
Dennis, our production manager, Dennis Zen over here. Dennis, just curiosity, you buy or sell this whole idea of RZA in this film?
I sell this. I fear for the universe that it would implode on itself from the bad acting of Paul Walker and the bad acting of RZA coming together to join forces.
Like Voltron assembling like the mighty lions.
Destroy everything.
Guys, this could be the apex of some brand new thing. This could break through into the fourth dimension. This could blow everything up. Don't fear it. Get through it. Walk past it. Parkour past it.
All right, what do we got next?
Two-time Academy Award winner Christoph Waltz from Django Unchained and Inglourious Basterds is set to join Robert De Niro, Jason Clarke, and Omar Sy in The Candy Store, a character-driven action thriller by Academy Award-winning writer and director Stephen Gaghan, known for such films as Traffic and Syriana. The Candy Store interweaves several storylines set against a dynamic criminal underworld in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. A former covert operative, Clarke, discovers the organization he was dedicated to fighting is now operating in his new backyard. When he teams up with a disgraced local cop, De Niro, their investigation leads them to an international sex trade entrepreneur, Sy, a Cold War consigliere posing as a typical American suburbanite, Waltz, and a beautiful girl wrapped up in an elaborate threat against Manhattan. John, buy or sell The Candy Store?
You could put Christoph Waltz in Gummy Bears the movie, and I will buy. So I'm absolutely, this is loaded with talent. Christoph Waltz is he's a powerhouse of an actor. I will eat up anything that this dude is in. The storyline actually sounds pretty good. Jason Clarke, I think, is a real up-and-comer. I think he's going to be a major A-list star within the next 3 years. Yeah, so for me, this is a buy. Schnepp, what about you?
Yeah, this is a buy for me as well. It just sounds like a great espionage, action, thriller, adult crazy drama, and I agree. All the actors in it are top-notch, so buy for me.
Dennis, what about you? You got any thoughts on The Candy Store?
Yeah, I'd totally buy it. I mean, not on just the premise, but like all the actors involved. I mean, you have Christoph Waltz, obviously awesome. Robert De Niro, who, you know, I hope has a resurgence with his actual performance in Silver Linings Playbook.
Right, yeah.
And Jason Clarke is great, Zero Dark 30 and Lawless. I've never seen Omar Sy before, but I heard that he's really good in Intouchables.
Yeah, he is. He's actually quite good in it. All right, well, that'll do it for Buy-In Snell. John Schnepp, thanks so much for joining us today. Hey, listen, where can people find you, John?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter, and I'll be at the Phoenix Comic-Con next week and Philadelphia Comic-Con the following week. I'll be showing Grim Fairy Tales and talking about some of the new stuff, the Superman documentary I'm working on. So that's where I'll be.
All right, Schneppel, thanks a lot. Hey, listen, folks, before we get into the mailbag, I want to remind you that opening in AMC theaters everywhere tonight, actually, is the brand new Star Trek Into Darkness. This film looks awesome. I recently had a chance to get together with the cast of Star Trek Into Darkness. Yesterday, I shared with you our conversation with Kirk, Mr. Christopher Pine. And right now, I want to share with you my interview with Zachary Quinto, who, of course, plays Mr. Spock. Actually, I'm going to bring up this picture. This is kind of fun. This picture, I used to run a party every year at Comic-Con, and this particular picture was taken at the party that I threw. You can see I've got the cast of heroes with me, including Zachary Quinto. This picture is actually taken the day, just a few hours after they officially announced at Comic-Con that Zachary Quinto was going to play Mr. Spock in the, at the time, upcoming Star Trek remake. So that was a lot of fun. That day and that party was a lot of fun. So anyway, take a second, check out my conversation with Zachary Quinto about Star Trek Into Darkness. I just want to ask you, from that night that you were announced as the new Spock, talk a little bit about the expectations you had about becoming that character and where you and JJ wanted to see this new incarnation of Spock going as we go into Darkness.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations were that I was stepping into one of the most iconic roles in the history of science fiction, certainly. And I knew that I needed for myself and to make the best work that I could make to find my own version of it. And JJ helped me every step of the way, and so did Leonard, and Leonard and I have become incredibly close as a result of that, and I feel like my expectations were exceeded. I've had an incredible time playing this character, and I'm thrilled to get to do it again, and I hope people respond to it with the same kind of enthusiasm and excitement as they did the first time, and I hope they enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it.
All right, well, congratulations on the film. We can't wait to have it on AMC screens.
Cool,
Thanks a lot, man. Take care. Good to see you again. Star Trek Into Darkness opens in AMC theaters everywhere tonight. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for your theater, showtime, and movie ticket information. Well, listen, folks, talking about Mailbag, before we get into the actual questions, The other day, I mentioned that I asked you guys to send me a poster, design and make a poster and send it to me about Independence Day versus V. And we got this amazing one from John Mattinson. Now, yesterday, I mentioned on the show, we were talking about the new Hunger Games Catching Fire poster. And I said, well, I like the first movie. I didn't like the second book, so I'm not really excited about the second movie. And I said, I'm not really excited about this new poster. I don't think this new poster looks very interesting. But I said, but maybe that's only because I'm not really looking forward to the movie. Maybe if it was like Man of Steel and it was the exact same poster, I would say it looks badass. Well, Mr. Mattinson took it upon himself to make this. Take this poster side by side. Amazing job. And sure enough, I was right. Mm-hmm. It looks badass when it's Man of Steel. I didn't think it looked all that good when it was just for Catching Fire. So, Matson, you have proved that I was just letting my anticipation of the individual movies skew my view of the poster. I thought this looked awesome. So, well done, sir. But anyway, if you've got a topic or a question you would like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. We get like hundreds of emails a day, but we pick a few out every single day, address them on the show. Chrisley's got a few of them pulled out. So Chrisley, what do we got in the mailbag?
Simon Daly writes, first of all, I love the show since day one. I'm wondering what the AMC team think of this theory. The reason why no Avengers were shown in Iron Man 3 is that all Phase 2 movies are set to be happening at the same time until they are all together again for Avengers 2.
It's a really good theory, and I don't think you're far off. But personally, for me, I never even thought, why are there no other Avengers here? Because, at the end of Avengers, Thor went back to his world. Captain America kind of decided to go incognito and go into hiding for a while. Same with Dr. Bruce Banner, because he's still hiding from the government in many ways. Everybody just went off and did their own thing. And remember, Iron Man 3, it's not like Iron Man 3 takes place over a month. I think from beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, I think it's only a few days. Yeah. So really, it's not like there would have been time to get the word out to Hulk or get the word out to Hawkeye or whatever to come in. It all happened very, very quickly, and they were all off doing their own thing. So that's personally why I don't think, although I think your theory is correct, the reason I don't think they were all together is because they were all off doing their own thing.
James Beasley writes, when talking about the success of the modern era of comic book films, some people will say that the first X-Men movie is to thank, while others say that the first Blade is to thank. While both of those movies certainly ushered in the era, I would argue that the whole genre truly owes its success to the first Spider-Man movie, as it was the first comic book movie to really become a smash hit at the box office and be critically acclaimed. What are your thoughts?
Some people, very, very few people, will point to the resurrection, because remember, comic book movies were dead for a long time. And some people say, well, it was because of Blade. Blade is the reason comic book movies made the resurgence, because Blade came out like 1998, I believe. But the thing about that is Blade was never really looked at by the mass audience as a comic book movie. A lot of people didn't even know Blade was a comic book character. They more looked at it as a vampire / action / horror film. And it had some nice little success and whatever, but no. The film that single-handedly resurrected the comic book genre, and you can ask people in the industry this, was X-Men. X-Men was the first movie that made everybody else in Hollywood go, hey, you can make a really good, dramatic, and successful comic book franchise in movies. Who knew? Because it had been so long since it's been done. That is the film that resurrected. There would have been no Spider-Man had it not been for the success of X-Men and how good X-Men won. One of the Spider-Man producers, actually, a guy by the name of Ian Bryce, I remember once was talking about that. He said, Spider-Man was already kind of in the pipeline when the first X-Men came out. It certainly wasn't when they started making X-Men. But, it was still in the idea stage. They were getting things. They wanted to make it. But Ian Bryce then once said, but it wasn't until we saw the results. We saw what you can do with comic book movies today with X-Men that made us get the full green light, go ahead, and we went into production and everything got finalized and made. So you see, there wouldn't have even been a Spider-Man movie without X-Men and the success that it had. And the big success that Spider-Man was because of the groundwork that X-Men made before it. So absolutely, the film that resurrected the comic book genre was X-Men.
Rishi Shan writes, greetings and salutations, John and everybody there. Love your show and follow it on a daily basis in spite of having exams going on right now. Anyway, I recently saw Mr. Brooks, amazing movie and brilliant work by Kevin Costner. I heard rumors of it being a trilogy. Is that or was that so? If yes, is the studio continuing with it? If yes, when should we expect it to come by? And if not, Why are they not opting for it?
Mr. Brooks is a great film, a highly underappreciated film, and I argued for years that Kevin Costner deserved an Oscar nomination for that. I'm not going to say he should have won, but he deserved an Oscar nomination, one of his best performances he has ever given. That movie's great. And yeah, there was some thoughts when they made the film that maybe they could do 2 or 3 out of this. However, the reason they did not is because nobody went to go see it. The movie made about $28 million domestically. It actually lost the studio a bit of money. Even when you take in international numbers and all that kind of stuff, when you factor in marketing and all that kind of, the film actually did legitimately lose the studio money. And studios are not into the idea of just throwing money, as Dennis says, into the ocean. And it's really unfortunate that more people didn't support it, but we didn't. And so the studio have no plans to make Mr. Brooks 2.
Emmanuel P. writes, great show. Keep up the good work. My question is about Deadpool. Can you explain to me why the R rating is such a big deal? Expendables and Expendables 2 were both R-rated, had less than $100 million budgets, and made $250 million in the box office. I think the problem is the studio is looking at Deadpool like a superhero movie, where it should be more of a comic book movie. In terms of a comic book movie, 300 was R-rated, also on a smaller budget and did $400 million. Why can Deadpool simply be marketed as the crazy, awesome guy movie it's supposed to be? Couldn't it achieve a similar success of these other 3 and seem to have the R-rated guy movie formula down?
Great question. A lot of us have been waiting a very long time to see Deadpool. Nobody more than Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds has been championing this movie for a long time. He wants to get this made, and it has. We all agree it's got to be R-rated. If you're not going to do Deadpool rated R, don't bother doing it. It's got to be R-rated. But you raise a couple of films as examples that what I call the examples or the exception argument. And here's what I mean. First of all, you mentioned the Expendables. Well, the Expendables is a little bit different because the Expendables is geared and was targeted at and was marketed to people who grew up watching the 80s and 90s action films. They're targeting people, guys who are 30 and 40 and 50 years old. That's who that was marketing, and that's who that's going after. That's a different market than the Deadpool market. It's not the same people. It's a lot younger people that are going to try to get to Deadpool. When you're targeting younger, it's difficult to make marketing and successfully franchise R-rated films. It's very, very difficult. Hollywood has proved over and over and over again, R-rated films do not make as much money. There are exceptions, and here comes the exception argument, okay? It's like saying to people, all right, if you want, let's use a basketball analogy, all right? And I'm not a big basketball fan, but it's like saying, hey, that player has the ball at half court. He's 100 feet from the basket, but he should take a shot from half court. No, that's stupid. He'll miss. And then what the person doing the exception argument will say to me is like, no, remember last year in game 4 of whatever playoffs, guy took a shot from half court and made it. And remember also this other guy took a shot from half court and made it. So see, it can happen. Well, yeah, but there's 1,000 other shots taken from half court that miss. You're talking about the exceptions and using it as your argument. I get into this with people all the time. I say, look, such and such a movie doesn't work, or this type of movie doesn't work, or whatever, and somebody will always come up with the exception. They'll say the exception. Oh, I'll say big TV stars who started their career as big, famous TV stars have a very difficult time transitioning to becoming recognizable movie stars. And people go, no, that's wrong, because look at George Clooney. It's like, okay, yes, I can name you about 20 of them too, who were legitimate big TV stars and started out that way. But that's 20 over 40 years. That's 20 out of the 1,000 who have tried. And so I get really frustrated when people make the exception argument. And I know that's not what you're trying to do. You're just pointing out an example, and I get that. I think there's a possibility Deadpool could be successful. Like 300. You brought up 300. That's a better example than Expendables. I think it's possible, but you also got to recognize and at least appreciate why the studios are hesitant and why the studios want to be careful, because it's not often that a younger targeted R-rated movie can make tons of money. And if you're doing Deadpool, they're targeting lots and lots of money. So while I think it can work, you and I as fans have to at least understand why they're apprehensive about it.
Corey O. writes, I'm a huge fan of the 28 Days, Weeks Later movies and was wondering if they were planning on doing a 28 Months Later movie. I know zombie movies are getting old, but since it doesn't really qualify as a zombie movie anyway, and I love the first 2, I think they should conclude the series and make it a trilogy. What are your thoughts?
They're not technically zombies, but let's face it, the 28 series is a zombie franchise, even though they're not zombies. The problem is that the first film didn't make a lot of money. The second film made, I believe, less than half of what the first film made. So you've got this, you know how in business meetings and movies they have charts? Well, the chart in this one is going this way. And so therefore the studio, and the second one actually lost the money. So the studio stepped back and said, well, the people didn't come back to watch the second one. It made less than half or about half of what the first one made. That's not a good trajectory. So no, I believe there are no plans to make it 28 months later.
Curvon Cupidor writes, "Hey guys, great show. Been subscribed for a couple weeks now, and I haven't missed an episode.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of the Game of Thrones series, but I have never read the books. Yes, I know I should. I recently watched The Complete Guide to Westeros, a series of short videos which gives a backstory about the world of Westeros. And I thought to myself, this would make an epic movie or trilogy after or maybe during the series. What do you guys think?"
Game of Thrones is one of those television properties that I believe you absolutely can do a movie about. Not just because it's cinematic in scope and in nature and in tone, but also it's ridiculously popular. They have short seasons. They have a rich character base. And look, I don't think they can finish a show and then in 10 years do it, but I believe you finish, say, season 5 and say, that's it, we're only doing 5 seasons. Then do a movie 2 years later that picks up after the end of season 5. I think this is one of those situations where that can work and can work very well. So I'm right with you. I think this one could actually happen.
L.A. Emmert writes, "Just became a subscriber. Love the show. Anyways, my question is about the Punisher movie from 2004, Thomas Jane. I really enjoyed the film. What happened? I honestly thought it was the best Fox property movie. They did right with the exception of X-Men Trilogy, Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Elektra, Ghost Rider, and etc. Thought Thomas Jane was the perfect Punisher. Please give me your thoughts. Take care, everyone."
Not many of us liked it. I mean, I actually didn't mind the first Punisher film, but I believe it had like a 28% rating. That means that while there are some people that like it, the people that like it are the minority. A lot of people didn't, and the movie lost money. And so therefore they kind of gave up on it. They tried rebooting it with what I believe is the superior Punisher film, Punisher Warzone. I thought that was the better movie, but people still had such a bad taste in their mouth from the first Punisher movie that it made even less money. I think the first one made like $20 million, and then the second Punisher Warzone made like $8 million, even though I thought it was a lot better of a film. R-rated, by the way, going back to our previous question. So no, there are no plans to go back because it didn't make money, and generally speaking, people didn't like it in general, but there are some who did. But that's not a formula to entice a studio to want to make another one. So that's why we're probably not going to see that. Well, listen, folks, we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Listen, while I've got you, before you do anything else, take a second and click that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news and, of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. And listen, go on out and see a movie tonight. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com to get all your theater, showtime, and movie tickets for films like Star Trek, which opened tonight, Iron Man 3, or any of the others. Great Gatsby, lots of great films are playing in AMC Theaters right now. Head on out and grab them. I want to thank, as always, our lovely host, Miss Chris Lee Kennedy.
Thank you for having me.
Our production manager sitting over here, Mr. Dennis Zen.
Thanks for having me. Go Kings.
And thank you most of all to you guys. Listen, the most important part of this show is not what we have to say. The most important part of this show is what you have to say. Make sure you jump on down to the comments section and leave your thoughts on any or all of the topics that we discussed here today. And once again, click that subscribe button. Thanks a lot for joining us, folks. We'll be back again tomorrow. And until then, my name's John Campia for AMC Movie News.